to be good. We're here to be like the best in the country.
I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championships.
The rivalries, it's up there on top of the list, man. And if we allow them to devalue it, we lose a lot of what makes college football special. Don't let them do it. Don't let them devalue what it means to you. Hey, welcome in. It's Jug. Appreciate you so much for joining me. I wanted to get this out to primarily our podcast guys who listen to us in audio format over at Apple Podcast or Spotify, whatever platform you find us on, because I know that a lot of you haven't gravitated over yet towards the Buckeye Huddle channel for those Monday and Wednesday shows that we're doing over there at 8 p.m. over on the Buckeye Huddle channel. So I wanted to make sure that I got this one out to you guys to remind you of that, and maybe a little recap of yesterday, which right now it is Tuesday morning. Yesterday, of course, we had the big press conference at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. I went to the press conference, and I mistakenly thought that was the last time we were going to get to hear from Ryan Day before the Texas game. I was incorrect. We're going to get to see him again on Tuesday, which is sweet. But I did go down, and the first thing out of Ryan Day's mouth was Julian Sayin is the starting quarterback. Cut right to the first thing out of his mouth was, I'm not going to comment about what happened last Friday.
All right, before we get going, I'm sure some of you guys want me to comment on Friday's report, but I'm not going to do that. My responsibilities to the Buckeyes, my responsibilities to this team, and making sure that we're ready to play in 12 days, and that's where we're going to keep the focus. That being said, Julian Sayin will be the starting quarterback against Texas. It was a close competition. I think both guys, we all feel confident, can win a game for us. I think Julian separated himself really over the last week with his consistent play. I feel like our guys are confident again with both quarterbacks. I think we'll need both quarterbacks. Lincoln did a lot of great things, but we're going to name Julian the starter here, give him the majority of the reps with the ones, and go prepare to beat them.
Which he was referring to the Michigan ruling. And it took me a minute to even put together what he was talking about, because that is how distant of a memory that is for me. And again, happy that happened so close to the season, because I just don't care anymore. It's already over. It's already old news, as it should be. But Julian Sayin has everything that Ryan Day looks for in a quarterback. And this is a big day for us, guys. Look, the quarterback at Ohio State is just, ever since Troy Smith, it just means something different. It's just a huge deal. And every time we get a new one, it's exciting. I'm excited about it. If it would have been Lincoln Keenholes, I would have been equally as excited not equally. I'd have been excited about it. It's just, there's something fun and exciting about getting a new quarterback named. And here we go with a new guy, especially when it's a guy who has multiple years of eligibility. Julian has 3. What? Does Julian have 4? Julian has 4? I got to double check this. Julian has 3 years of eligibility. So 3 years of eligibility for Julian Sayin. I don't think anybody expects him to be around for 3 years, but I think that 2 years is the expectation here. It's interesting, though, being that he doesn't have the NFL measurables. Like, even if he does really good his sophomore and junior year, he might not be an early entrant, but at that point, you're ready to play Tavian St. Clair, right? What if Julian's doing pretty good, but not great? The clamoring for Tavian St. Clair would be huge at that point. I'm getting way ahead of myself. The point is, Julian Sayin beats out Lincoln Keenholes in a battle that started, well, we can go back to last year where Julian walks in, and you're going to hear people say there was no designated third string quarterback. Julian walked in and passed Lincoln Keenholes over to the point where my buddy Dylan Davis asked Ryan Day at a press conference, and he was clearly by far and away the number 3 guy, and Ryan Day was considering giving him more snaps at that point. So while there may not have been a designated number 3 guy, it was very clear that Julian Sayin was the guy who was far advanced from Lincoln last year. And that's credit to Lincoln, because they came into spring this year squared up And there were several times in spring where it felt like Lincoln was having the better spring. He definitely beat him heads up in the Student Appreciation Day scrimmage. And then as we headed into the spring game, they had the big practice that was open to the media the day before the spring game. And they both looked really bad. And then rolling into the spring game, lights turned on the brightest. Julian Sayin showed out. Lincoln didn't. And at that point, it seemed like, okay, big favorite heading into the fall is Julian. And day one, Lincoln beats him again. And then it seems like ever since then, it's just been either Julian or they kind of stalemated, or Julian or they stalemated, and Lincoln never really took it back over. So he's got everything Ryan Day's looking for as a quarterback. He is poised, he's accurate, and now what's happening is he is doing what Ryan Day has been asking him to do, even publicly, talking about there's more to playing quarterback than just making the throws, making the reads. You got to own the huddle. You got to have command. And Ryan Day did compliment him on that, coming around to that. And he said really in this last week, he's seen a ton of development, a ton of improvement, and doing the routine things routinely, which is what he requires. So I personally think, I've been a big fan of this guy for a long time, but I think that he has the chance to be lethal in this offense. And I know that there are so many people that doubt him just because you look at that size and it's just like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel quite the same as when you're looking at a guy that's 6'3", a guy like Lincoln's build. It just doesn't look the same. And I get it, that there's some automatic doubt there, but I could tell you his arm is no weaker than Lincoln's, despite that size difference. I know a lot of people think that. It's not at all. And his deep ball is much more accurate. His intermediate ball is much more accurate. He's got more zip on the ball. He gets it out faster. He's a better quarterback prospect. And Lincoln, if he ever gets that accuracy around to, a better level, he could be a really good quarterback prospect too. I don't think that's going to happen, in the next year or two, but he's a guy that Ryan Day said, we're going to need this year. And Lincoln knows we're going to need him this year. And Ryan Day told him yesterday morning, told them both what was happening. Lincoln went into practice, didn't let it phase him, believes that he's going to play this year. That's fantastic. And I'm pretty happy and confident that you got a backup there who can play and get you through a game in a pickle. So that's a great thing. Certainly better than the backup situation last year. By the way, Devin Brown transfers out to Cal after losing two successive quarter battles in a row to Kyle McCord and then Will Howard, which wasn't really much of a battle. Goes out to Cal and just was announced yesterday, lost his battle to Jaron Sagapolitelli, who was a 5-star freshman, was committed to Cal, flipped to Oregon, then back to Cal, then beat out Devin Brown. And I am so disappointed because I was really looking forward to rooting for Cal this year, just to root for Devin. I wasn't a huge fan of Devin's skill set, but I was a fan of the guy, and I wanted to see good things for him, being that he stayed on the team through the playoffs, didn't want to leave his team. And remember, they put those guys in a spot last year where we saw Bo Pribula leave Penn State and go to Missouri through the playoffs. Devin Brown stayed. Bo Pribula went and got a big payday at Missouri. Devin Brown had to turn down opportunities, lucrative opportunities, and ended up going to Cal. And he turned down those opportunities because those teams couldn't wait, and understandably so. They couldn't wait and just hope that they were going to sign him at the end. So in the end, it turns out, screwing over the guy who did things right. And yeah, he could have gone and won the battle, but it's a bad situation. It's a bad situation. Now, there are some who say this particular competition between Julian Sayin and Lincoln would have gone into the season had Texas not been game 1, had Texas been, say, game 3, and you had Ohio and Grambling starting off as game 1 and 2, that the staff would go ahead and roll both of them out there, let them get live action. I think that would have been a big mistake, man. That was terrible when they did it with Kyle and Devin. I think Ryan Day said that was terrible. Not in those words, but made it clear that he didn't want to do that again. I mean, he specifically said he didn't want to do that again. And I just don't think that this was near as close as some people think that it was. Even if that's the word, if that's orders from headquarters, a lot of times they say things like that, and then it's not quite as tight as they're saying. And there's no doubt that Julian maybe a little overestimated by some people throughout this thing, because he has had to grow, but he's clearly there now. And it seemed pretty clear the last couple of weeks here that this was all Julian. All the reports coming out, Julian, scrimmage number 1, Julian. So there we go. Julian Sayin, the quarterback. But let's move on to some other positions, as we did talk yesterday about a couple of positions. And Ryan Day gave some numbers of the amount of guys that we are going to see at a couple of different position groups playing. And I took the liberty of putting names to those numbers. So when I say these names, these are my names, his numbers, and these are just my estimations of who I think those names are. But when he talked about the offensive line, he did confirm that there is one who's starting, and that's Austin Saravella. He'll be starting at left tackle. Austin at left tackle, I think we can safely assume Luke Montgomery at left guard, Carson Hinsman at center. Right guard will be Tegra again. Right tackle, Phil Daniels. And there is your 4 out of 5 Ohio boy lineup there on the offensive line, which I love. And in a cheese-eating Wisconsin, Carson Hinsman at center. Then you got your sixth man, your rotational guy who's been playing both guard and tackle. This is Ethan Anyanwa, your left tackle from Rice, who you paid a ton of money in the transfer portal. And I am literally getting people arguing with me about this. Like, it is true, the man is still on your team and he will serve a purpose, and that will be good. This is not debatable. When you pay a guy left tackle money in the transfer portal and he doesn't crack your starting lineup, it's a big whiff. Now, this isn't the end of it. He could certainly end up cracking that starting lineup at some point during the season if Phil Daniels falters. He won't be the left tackle, and that's where the big money price tag comes from. So while he will serve a purpose, that is a lot of money that went to him that you could have paid for a sixth-man rotational lineman. There's a big difference in dollars there, and those dollars could have gone somewhere else, and that's why it's a whiff. So that's not debatable, not up for debate at all. If this holds and he doesn't start for the season, huge whiff. So sorry about that if that makes you upset. That's not debatable. Anyway, I like the player. He could still very much, ascend, but this is not who they expected they were getting. They didn't expect they were getting a rotational guy when they signed a big dollar left tackle. I'm just amazed at the stuff people argue about sometimes. Like, not everything's perfect, guys. It's just not always perfect. And there are some people, when they hear anything negative, it's just like attack. Everything's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. We can still call it like we see it. But that will be the sixth man, will be Ethan. Now, seventh could be a couple of guys. Could be Gabe Van Sickle. Could be Josh Padilla. Could be Ian Moore. But Ryan Day did say we would see probably he said, I got 5 starters. We could see 2 to 3 more. And that could be any combination of those guys. At tight end, he said we'll see 4 to 5. So 4 to 5 is going to be Max Clare, Will Kazmarek, Christian Bennett Christian, both of those guys. Nate Roberts has now passed Max LeBlanc, the sophomore, and Jelani Thurman. So those 5, which leaves Max LeBlanc and freshman Brody Lennon as the odd man out. And then as we move to receiver, he said 6. So 6, obviously you're talking JJ, Carnell Tate, Brandon Innes, and then you are getting into Bryson Rogers, who I believe is the clear-cut 4, who is the only wide receiver yesterday that wasn't mentioned a single time in that press conference because he gets no respect. Bryson Rogers, number 4. Mylan Graham, number 5. Quincy Porter, number 6. Brian Hartline was asked about Quincy Porter yesterday, and he talked about Quincy obviously having a great spring and then basically needs some more to. It sounded like he's hit maybe a bit of a freshman wall in the fall, is the way it came across. I can't remember his exact quote, but that's normal, right? That's normal, and he'll bust through that. He's going to be fantastic. But it seems like when we start this year here, we're going to see I don't suspect a ton in the Texas game. I think we'll see a whole lot of those starters. But moving forward from there, a lot of Bryson, a lot of Mylan Graham. And I do think that we're going to see a little more rotation than we usually do because those two are ready. They're ready to roll, and I don't think there's much of a drop-off. Bryson Rogers, for the little respect he gets, so smooth, so quick in and out of breaks, great hands, catches the ball away from his body. All right, let's get to running backs, where Ryan Day says not 1, not 2, but 3 running backs will play, and there was some talk yesterday, some chatter about who that third might be. Would it be Sam Dixon? Would it be Bo Jackson? That's not close between the two of them. These are Bo is a NFL dude. And I got this comment the other day from Pride Guy that says, I hear Bo Jackson mentioned on other podcasts, but none of them rave about him like you do. What are they missing? Man, I don't know. I don't know what they're missing. This is a 24-pound back. He doesn't look like it. And maybe they're missing some of that. He's 224. He moves with no wasted movement. He creates when it's not there, and he has home run speed. I mean, take it to the house ability at 224. It's different. It's special. And this is not a situation where he gets cleanup duty with James Peoples in my mind. I don't think that they're going to be able to keep him off. I don't think they'll be able to justify keeping him off the field because I think that when he comes in, it'll just look better because it has. It has in practice. It has in the last 2 scrimmages. He just looks great compared to the other really good backs who I really, really like. And I don't know how you justify that unless there's only one reason you would. He can't handle his protection, which remains to be seen. So far, so good. Not going to be against Texas for sure. But as we move through this season, I just don't see this playing out like it did last year with Peoples, where he comes in and gets a couple 5-6 garbage duty carries. I could be wrong, but I'm digging my heels in because I believe in the dude. I believe in the talent. And it's not always easy to call your shot. If you're wrong, you'll get clowned for it pretty good. But I've never been afraid to do that. I'll do it. I'll put myself out there when I believe in the guy, and I do. I think he's a special player. I really do. So that's my reason. I don't know what theirs is. But moving on to the defensive side of the ball, I think I was wrong about one thing. I was wrong about more than one thing, but about this thing. I think I was wrong about this thing. When Bo Atkinson was coming in from North Carolina, I thought that what we would see would be Kenyatta Jackson as the clear number 1 at edge, and then Caden Curry and Bo Jackson kind of splitting snaps as the number 1 over on that side. And I think Caden Curry has just done a tremendous job all camp to make sure that that doesn't happen. And I think it'll be Kenyatta and Caden much closer to even than I originally thought. So they're starting, and then you're going to get Bo and CJ or Logan George. Logan George, though, he's been dinged up all camp. Not sure how that's going to affect him early in the season. Haven't heard much about him at all. And like I was talking about this last night on the Buckeye Huddle Primetime show, like Ethan Anyanwa coming from Rice, Logan George coming from Idaho State, these guys are making the big jump. And, the jury's out yet, like on guys that are making that big jump coming to Ohio State. We've only had a few. You've had a big hit in Josh Simmons at San Diego State. You've had a not very big hit in Vic Cutler at ULM. Most of the Buckeyes hits have been from bigger schools, guys that, were playing at Ole Miss, at Kansas State, at, we've had 3 from Ole Miss, at 2 from Alabama, 3 from Alabama, 3 from Ole Miss. Man, that's a lot. 3 from Alabama and 3 from Ole Miss. I never really thought about that. IGB, Ty Malone, and Quinshawn, all from Ole Miss. Seth McLaughlin, Julian Sayin, who the jury's still out on, technically, but he is our starting quarterback now, and Caleb Downs from Alabama. So Will Kazmarek from Ohio, he made the leap, and he's doing what he should do. But something to keep an eye on with the limited data that we have so far in the transfer portal, as we only really have been active at Ohio State for 3 cycles now in the transfer portal. There was a couple sprinkled in here or there before. But Bo Atkinson, CJ Hicks, Logan George, that second wave there. And then on the interior, Larry said he wants to play 6. That'll start, obviously, with Edric Houston and Caden McDonald. Behind Caden McDonald at 1 tech will be Will Smith Jr., then Eric Mensah. Behind Edric Houston at 3 tech will be Ty Malone, Jarquez Carter, Jason Moore. And one of those guys getting left out. I think it'll be Jason Moore. I think Jarquez Carter will be the guy pushing for those snaps. Again, another guy like Bo Jackson, I dug my heels in a long time ago on, and I think we're going to see a really special player out of Jarquez Carter. Linebacker's interesting because linebacker Ryan Day said 4, and that is without a doubt Arvell, Sonny Styles, and Peyton Pierce. Who's 4? Is it Riley Pettijohn? Is it Garrett Stover? Not so sure. We don't know quite yet what we got in Garrett Stover. And we don't know because James Laurinaitis doesn't really get asked about Garrett Stover. Garrett Stover, a guy who ran 22 miles an hour last year, verified. He has put on a little bit of weight since then. He's up to 223. He was a little skinnier. He was a safety in high school, but a freak athlete. Obviously, not going to touch Riley in the freak athlete department. But is Riley ready to go out there on the field in that capacity? Now, I'd say, yeah, this is going to be Riley, but somebody brought up Stover to me, and I thought, got to give him his run. It could potentially be Stover here. If I was betting, I bet on Riley being that 4th guy, but you can't just totally discount Garrett Stover. By the way, Josh Stover followed me the other day, and I was like, boy, it's another Stover, huh? And I looked at this profile, and I looked at his tweet, and he tweeted Cade Stover, one of his Houston Texans. This kid was a baseball player. And then I'm like, is this another one of the Stover kids? And I look down like 2 more tweets, and there's like another football playing Stover and another. I think there's like 6 or 7 of these Stover kids, man. We need some more of them. Get us all the Stovers we can have. I love it. So interesting stuff there. Now, as we move back to safety, Ryan Day said 3, which that was pretty interesting. Obviously, that's Malik Hartford, Caleb Downs, and Jalen McClain. But I would have expected him to say, maybe 4, maybe 5, a little Leroy Roker, a little Fahim Delane would be nice to see this year. But he just said 3. Then he said 2 nickels, which will be Lorenzo Styles and Bryce West. And then he said 4 corners. So Jermaine Matthews, IGB, then Aaron Scott, and Devin Sanchez. Devin Sanchez, after Sonny Styles won the Blocko, the Bill Willis Blocko, I got to remember to say that every time because I think that gets lost, that is not just the Blocko. That's the Bill Willis Blocko, and that has meaning behind it. And I think it's a really cool tradition, not just because the 0 looks like the Blocko, but because of Bill Willis's meaning behind it. So Sonny gets the Bill Willis Blocko, and he was number 6. Devin Sanchez was number 6 in high school, and I was wondering if he's going to take that back over or if he's going to stick with 4, as you do have Jeremiah on one side, him on the other, both wearing 4. Pretty cool for the young phenoms. And Devin will be taking 6 back over. So Devin going to be back there in 6. He looks great in 6. He really does. So that is the projected roster and the projected guys out of that 2 deep that I think we're going to see play a lot of snaps based on what we've learned throughout fall camp here, or training camp, as it were. I understand there's a lot of people who are irritated that I call it fall camp sometimes. It's kind of interchangeable to me. I don't know. When I was in high school, it was just fall camp. But anyway, I think I'm going to cut it short at that today. I just wanted to pump this out, particularly for the audio guys, because I know a lot of you guys are missing some of these Monday and Wednesday shows. but I'll load it up on YouTube as well. Even though I'm like leaned back in my chair and not probably don't have my usual spunk, it's really early in the morning. Anyway, appreciate you guys so much. I will be back Wednesday night on the Buckeye Huddle channel at 8 p.m. for Buckeye Huddle Prime Time, and we will wrap then. Talk to you guys. Check out Buckeye.